Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. Last time we did a brief review on China's foreign relations in the year 2024, with special focus on its relations with the United States, with Russia, and with Europe, some major European countries. This time we're going to continue the same topic, but especially focusing on China's relations with its neighbors, such as Japan, of course, the two Koreas, the Philippines, and Australia, and so on and so forth. Let's start with China's relations with Japan. It wasn't very good in terms of the bilateral relations between the two countries. Well, although China lifted its ban on Japan's seafood imports to China, which lasted for some time, and China did it unilaterally, and then China lifted the ban on Japan's visa and reactivated its 15-day-long visa-free policy for Japanese tourists to China, but it did not seem matter very much. It did not seem help very much in terms of improving their relations, because on the other hand, Japan decided to improve its security pact with the United States, the Mutual Defense Pact. The United States is to send a 4-star general to Japan and to command the allied army. And for Japan, they're going to set up a unit called UCC, which is the Unified Combatant Command, for the purpose of improving their military cooperation. And also we also mentioned that the United States took the lead to improve relations between Japan and South Korea. Although there is not an official alliance among the three, it's still two bilateral relations, one with the United States and Japan, and one with the United States and South Korea. And in between South Korea and Japan, there's no official defense pact or any kind of military pact, but the military mutual assistance is forming, so that's for sure, which is a natural result of the escalation of Chinese and Russian military presence around Japan, or around Japan and South Korea. We've been noticing that there are often military exercises between China and Russia. And Chinese and Russian aircrafts and warships circle or navigate around these two countries from time to time. So that's a natural response. The joint military exercises between China and Russia is sometimes called Tokyo Express, or sometimes they call it Joint Air Strategic Cruise around Bering Sea. For instance, in July 2024, which took place around Bering Sea and all the way to Japan Sea and then to South Korea. So that's an important issue. And the last one, which is significant, is Japan signed a MAA, a Mutual Access Agreement, with the Philippines in early July 2024, which is the fourth one of that kind, following what happened with the UK and Australia and France. And according to the former Japanese Prime Minister, he called this MAA as something short of a mutual defense pact. So that means if it's necessary, then it could be escalated into a mutual defense pact very soon, or actually in no time. So to sum it up, we can see that the relations between Japan and Communist China wasn't so good in the year 2024. Now let's turn to its relations with the two Koreas, the South Korea and the North Korea. First, let's talk about its relations with North Korea, with Pyongyang. We saw a defense pact signed between Pyongyang and Moscow, meaning there's an official alliance between the two, official security pact between the two countries, which was not a happy thing to see for Beijing, because in the past, North Korea relied heavily upon Beijing, and Beijing tended to see North Korea as a protege of its own. So when it sees that its protege signed a defense pact with Moscow, although officially Moscow and Beijing are allies, but still, it's not a happy thing to see, because that means that North Korea will reduce its reliance upon Beijing more and more. And in order to substantiate this defense pact, North Korea sent troops to Ukraine, to the Ukraine battlefield, to fight for the Russians. So North Korea seems to use Moscow as a leverage against Beijing's pressure. And that leads to a real deterioration of the relations between North Korea and Communist China. So when you see that the relations between North Korea and Communist China goes bad, you think that relations between Communist China and South Korea will go good. No, that's not the case, because the tension also builds up in the relations between South Korea and Communist China. They dispute over several issues. First is the nuclear weapons in North Korea. Second is the Taiwan question. The third is the economic relations between the two countries. And then most importantly, the security issue between the two countries. In terms of the security issue, South Korea is trying to improve its relations with Beijing on top of its relations it has with the United States and with Japan. But the development of this trilateral relations is an annoyance to Beijing, because Beijing tends to see this kind of trilateral relations as a military threat to its own security. And in terms of the Taiwan issue, and since South Korea has been talking about Taiwan issue for so many times in 2024, which makes Beijing very unhappy, because Beijing thinks it's an what they call that internationalization of the Taiwan problem, which is something Beijing's not happy. And also, what bothers Beijing is the security officials among United States and Japan and South Korea. They met several times, and they even declared they want to join hands to maintain peace of Taiwan area, or the so-called Taiwan Strait, which again, it irritates Beijing very much. It's a sure sign of an internationalization of the Taiwan issue. And in the economic area, South Korea participated in the reorganization of the supply chain initiated by the United States with much enthusiasm, which again bothers China very much. South Korea joined the so-called the Chip Alliance, and they participated in the IPEF, so-called Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, with much enthusiasm, because South Korea had very little choice when facing pressure from Washington. So they had to do this. But Beijing was not happy. Beijing said it's a politicization of economic issue. So there are so many things that bothers Beijing about its relations with South Korea. So like I said, Beijing's relations with both Koreas went bad in the year of 2024. So that's for the two Koreas, or the Korean Peninsula. When it comes to the topic of Communist China's relations with the Philippines, people would naturally think about their confrontation over the second Thomas Shoal over and over in the year of 2024. And that happened after their confrontation over the Scarborough Shoal for the past few years. But compared to the other two things, these are really peanut things. So these are only small things. The first thing that really bothers Beijing is the United States is getting more bases in the Bataan Islands, which is to the northern part of the Philippines, somewhere between Taiwan and the Philippines, and it's closer to, it's getting closer to Taiwan too, actually. So that's the first thing that bothers Beijing. The second issue that Beijing is concerned about is the deployment of the Typhoon missile system. The Typhoon system is although it's a mid-range missile, but it's very accurate and it's powerful, and it can carry heavy bomb heads. So it's a big threat to Beijing's naval exercise in the area. So that's what really bothers Beijing in terms of its relations with the Philippines. What happened in the Philippines bothers Beijing very much because it's afraid that Vietnam might follow suit. Because if you look at the map of South China Sea, Vietnam was on the left-hand side or on the west side, and the Philippines on the east side, on the right-hand side. And both countries are really checking the choke point of South China Sea. And China had been building reefs into islands and militarized all these islands, altogether 7 or 8 of them. And some of them are, let me put it this way, strategically positioned. They picked the place very well. So that means there's a heavy confrontation among all these countries over South China Sea. And South China Sea, like I said, like I pointed out before, is a very important international waterway. It carries about 65 to 75% of international trade. The cargo ships will have to go through this area if they want to conduct international trade. So that's a heated flashpoint of international politics. And that's what matters with the Philippines and or Cambodia or Vietnam, and even Indonesia to a certain extent. So that's South China Sea. If we move even further south of the South China Sea, then we'll reach Australia. And what matters with Australia is the security pact called the AUKUS, namely a security pact among Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And the most important part is the building of the nuclear-powered submarines for Australia. And with the help of both the UK and the United States, they provided necessary technology and even some parts for Australia to build up the ships. And it's making considerable progress in terms of building the warships. And then what really bothers Beijing is that Japan took part in the effort, not in the effort of building the warship, but rather Japan participated on the second pillar, which included underwater war-fighting capability and long-range strike capability, cyber warfare, and electronic warfare. Japan will take part in these areas alongside with the help of the United Kingdom and the United States. Okay, after reviewing China's relations with Japan, the two Koreas, and the Philippines and South China Sea, that pretty much covers what I want to talk about today. But I'm sure the most observant audience must have noticed that I left out something. Taiwan. Yes, I left out Taiwan deliberately, which is something so important that I may have to devote one full program to talk about it. And let's wait till next time. So that's all I want to talk to you about today, and I hope you like it. Please subscribe if you haven't done so, and share it with your friends, and then click the icon bell so that you get a simultaneous notification when we have a new program on. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.